you have so many different facets of what you do with your company and with Cherry Bombe and all of it. What is your favorite aspect of your career right now?
That's a good question.
Kind of a loaded question, maybe, I guess, but good, right?
I mean, right now, I mean, because I think every business owner, I hope everyone's asking themselves that same question. Like,
Mhm.
eh, maybe I'm making no money doing this, but I would prefer to be doing more of this, and maybe that's not making the most money for me, but I really enjoy doing that part of my business. Um, so I'll answer from that perspective. I love travel. So if, right now during COVID, obviously there's no traveling in place, but the idea of taking people to wineries and hosting them on tours when we live in Portugal is, right now is inhibited because of what's happening. But that was something I was very excited about coming into 2020, feeling stronger and like, yes, let me continue pushing my brand and getting people to know that I'm out here in Portugal and that I really want people to, whether they're flying in on their own or they're coming in to be part of my wine trips that I put together. So bigger group trips. So I was excited to get that, going. And I do love being there. Sometimes I forget, like, oh yeah, wait a minute, I'm working. Let me, because I get so caught up. You're around a group of people, everybody's having a good time, or when people show up. So I was hosting tastings in Lisbon when people like arrived. So it's either like someone can like hire me for a tasting on their trip to Portugal, or in a way that I described too, if someone was booking within my larger group trip. So sometimes I get so carried away, I'm having a conversation with them, getting them excited about Portuguese wine, and then I forget, oh, wait a minute, I was only supposed to be here an hour and a half or hour, and the next thing you know, it was like 2 hours later, and then they're like, "Child, we love you. Come with us to dinner." The next thing you know, I'm coming with them to dinner, and I'm like, I can't be doing this like every other day. Like every time I'm like I'm supposed to host the group, taste with the group, and then next you know we have such a good connection afterwards and conversation going that next you know they're like, oh man, it's dinner time, suggest dinner. And then I give them a recommendation. They go, oh, you know what, just join us. And then now I'm with them, and like we met at 5 and I'm leaving them at 10. I'm like, this is not supposed to happen. And I had to start like wheeling back. I'm like, I gotta give myself a cutoff or like put an alarm on my phone and just kind of like, gotta go, kind of get out of that nicely. But to be honest, that was, obviously those hours when I'm like hanging with them, I'm not being paid for. So clearly that's something I love to do without actually being paid to do that part. So I would definitely say just like hosting people and, doing the tastings with them in person and actually being in a new place, like being your like tour guide, through the tasting is something I really find joy with. And so it's not so much in a very like I mentioned earlier about even the communion, not in this textbook kind of like I'm your wine instructor kind of way. I do love teaching as well, but I like to be in a place. I can tell you about foods that's going to pair well with it, and you can get it right there. Like we're in the middle of the place. It's not like, oh, when you go to Portugal, make sure you order this. It's like, no, we're here, and this is the perfect restaurant to get it. And buy yourself a bottle to take home because this is not in America. And so getting people excited about underrepresented regions and countries that people are not looking out for. And so I love living in Portugal and having that as my, I guess it's different than telling people about Portuguese wine and sitting in New York City versus being in Portugal and telling people about Portuguese wine. So, so I guess I light up thinking about that as well.
That sounds like an incredible time. I'm like, oh, bring me there. So where is your favorite wine region to travel to? I mean, is Portugal, sounds kind of like it's your love, but.
Yeah, I think that, of course, I'm just going to talk about places that I've been to. I have not been to Australia or New Zealand yet, so they may be trying to take over, once I go. But out of all of the wine regions I've visited, maybe some of there's difference in like having a good time and then also like just having good wine, right? So the one that probably like all in all is like just like perfect for me. I really love the idea of of course, Portugal is great. And I'm going to say that, yes, that it kind of like checks all these boxes, especially in the South, because as much as I love Portuguese wine, the wines that we get here in the States is usually the wines, like people know I'm in Portugal, go to Porto, go up to the north. Obviously, you got the Douro River, you have port wines. It's all about wine, right? But when you're in Lisbon, people don't usually think about this being like a wine making region, but they do think about parties, we call them sunsets, rooftop parties, beaches is everywhere. And then even further south is the Algarve region, which is where we like to say Eastern European, like vacation spot, and so a lot of people just come there for vacation, but it's also a winemaking region. And of course, I haven't been to the islands, but one day when I make it to Madeira and to the Azores. So like any place that has like beach and vineyards close enough to each other, I'm sommelier. I'm always on board. So I want to be able to be in my bikini, in the daytime, and then, or in the night that way, and in the morning working on the vineyards and like, kind of, and that's how I think about my wine trips too. It's like it need to be enough leisure in this. This is not like the party like trip. This is like leisure wine, and relax, leisure wine, and so, and obviously in that leisure is eating well and all that other stuff. So you don't feel bad about, eating all the things on this trip. Very slow moving kind of trips with me. And so that's why I said until I get to Australia, because we know they have a big beach culture as well. But that's kind of like the opposite of like what people think of when they think of like California. It doesn't mean that there's no winemaking region in the South, but the ones that you want to go visit are the ones in the North where you don't go to the beach. So I'm not as excited, right? So where else did I go to? Because Portugal, I guess, was going to be an obvious one. But yes, in Chile, you have this. But
I want to go to Chile so bad. I'm sorry.
I did harvest in Chile, I feel like 100 years ago. And so when I was there, I spent 2 months there. So it was it felt like everything was close, like now thinking back of it, but it probably wasn't so accessible like how I get that in Portugal, and then also South Africa. So if I didn't move to Portugal, I was going to move to South Africa. South Africa is too far. And so that idea when I'm at Stellenbosch and Bot River and all these other areas that's like close enough to be able to just kind of go right to the beach, I just want it sounds kind of like, like I'm a retired old lady, but that's kind of how I think about it. Like, I'm like, where do I get, especially being from New York, like, where can I get enough wine, but enough beach? Like, beach is important to me.
For real.
And so that's kind of my driving factors when it comes to like my own personal kind of like thought of where do I want to be when it comes to wine regions. And yeah, let's see. Hopefully, I'm sure I'll be in Germany one day, but it's not going to feel the same.
Yeah, definitely not.